When I'm doing a scenic design, I work on the bones first, the structure. Then eventually all of the bones are going to be ready so that people can, move about. So scenic carpentry is pretty unique, compared to like cabinetry or something like that. With scenic carpentry, you're kind of faking it. Not everything has to be a right angle. If something doesn't quite fit, it's amazing what you can do with paint. So the process has to start with going through the script and coming up with the big challenges. What do we have to solve? The challenge of that space is that there's nowhere to put anything when you're not using it. Most theaters, you have 20, 30 feet on both sides. You just take the thing away and bring the other thing on, Oh, we need a desk here. Okay, we're done with the desk. And here comes the panels that make a room. Well, there's no place to do any of that on that stage. So that was the other big challenge, was how do I hide things? And so it's those big questions first, and can we pay for it? You still have to be in the real world when it comes to these productions. You have to ask, what's my budget? I begin to sort of visualize from there. I start to doodle and I start to kind of imagine what this might look like. I have to visualize a lot when it comes to like the space. This is into the woods, so there's going to be some woodsy elements of here and there, and so that's the idea, is that I work from the bones to the skin to the costume to the makeup. And I do have drawings. Some of them are doodles, just to get something on paper, just to put down some ideas, because something popped into my head and I don't want to forget it. So it'll be something like that, and it's on scrap paper from work. This is another one. This is an idea that I had. This was a problem I'm trying to solve, and I think I've solved it, so now I have to build it. There's hundreds of things like that going on in my mind right now, because it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun too, especially, dress rehearsal when the tricks happen. That's one of my favorite moments, because when they happen the way I visualized it, it's a real eureka moment. It's like I worked really hard for this and it happened, yes, Which is this. I kind of always have ideas that I like to pursue. Something pops into my head. I'm like, it often starts with the question, what if? Yeah, what if I did that? What would happen if? And so it comes from my imagination. I think things up, and then I'm curious to see what happens. There was always this kind of creative thing that I like to make things and draw things. It was definitely, I loved my Legos when I was a kid. Definitely, those like creative toys, that kind of thing. In high school, I borrowed my dad's camera and I never gave it back. Thanks, Dad. Some artists during lockdown really went after it, and they did amazing things, and they created all this work, and they recorded new music and made movies and things like that. I sort of went the opposite route, and I didn't work very much during lockdown. But one day I did come downstairs and I started working on this piece. It felt nice to just come up with an idea very quickly, and I was like, all right, I'm going to put up a sheet. Let's see what happens. It's definitely born out of frustration, out of, I got to do something. And when I first threw a few colors on, I walked away almost immediately, and it was like, all right, well, whatever. I got something. I threw some colors, whatever. And I've revisited the piece a couple of times since. I like the idea of making a big, bold stroke and have it stick out. I want those bold movements. Even though they're static, I want them to sort of see movement in the piece. It's still here, because I don't know if there's any more to it, but I haven't decided that it's complete yet. There's some days where I just decide to come downstairs and I'll look around this absolute mess of a studio, and I'll just pick out a couple of materials and I'll just put one next to the other and see what happens from there. There's like a lot of like gleeful noise going because people are trying things on. They're like, oh, that's great, you look amazing. So that's always fun. In scenic design, it's a lot more problem solving. It's a lot more very specific problem solving. But there's places to be creative. In Into the Woods, we had a tree. that had to appear, in a tree, and we had a tower. And we had a very small stage. So I took that tree and that tower and I made them one thing. I was able to play with how to solve the issue. That's one of the things I absolutely love about scenic design and technical design is solving problems. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? There's something called for in the play where George comes out behind Martha with a gun and points it at her head. Their two guests are mortified. He pops this thing, and it's actually an umbrella. Okay? So I had to make this. And on stage, he would pop it open, and the umbrella would pop out the end. And so I had to do something very, very specific. There was none of that. It had to be a gun that popped out an umbrella. Oh, perfect timing, Kaylee.
Yes.
You want to catch?
Sure.
I love being surrounded by artistic people. I like to say theater saved my life when it came to high school. I didn't know what the hell I was doing in high school. And then one day, walking down the hallway, passed by the auditorium, a friend of mine that I knew, he's on stage and there's a car. There's a car on stage. And I'm like, Brian, what's up? Oh, we're doing Grease. I'm like, what? No kidding. So he tells me, he brings me backstage and he shows me the car. And it was literally, they'd taken a real car. They'd taken all the guts out of it. It was basically just the shell of a car on wheels. It was cut in half so they could fit it through doors. And it was held together on the bottom with timbers. And that's where it started. It started with me just walking on stage because there was a car there. Why is there a car in my high school? He says, oh, do you want to do lights? I'm like, sure, I'll do lights. Whatever. What does that mean? And so introduced to the theater teacher. And next thing you know, I'm looking around. I'm like, these people are all weird like me. This is great. I love it. People used to call me weird and I'd be like, thank you. Because I don't want to be like you. I'm just making this up as I go along. It's a paraphrase from Indiana Jones.
I'm going after that truck. Oh, I don't know. I'm making this up as I go.
I'm like, yep. Yeah, he's my spirit animal. Indiana Jones is my true hero. He doesn't know. Neither do I. I have a list of a few of my heroes that I want to like immortalize. Like, Bob Mould, I've seen him 4 times. He's great. Incredible, powerful musician on stage. So I tried to, paint him. Fear of failure is real. I mean, not every show comes off. Fear of failure here is kind of, all right, I don't like that piece. I'll paint it over, I mean, you hear stories in art history all the time where like, there's a painting under the painting. Yeah, of course there's a painting under the painting because Da Vinci didn't like the first one. And it's okay for Da Vinci not to like the first one. If he wants to paint over it, okay by me. Well, when it comes to theater, you have to keep going because you have an entire group of artists relying on you. You've got the actors and the singers and dancers if it's a musical, the director, the lighting designer, the sound designer, the costumes, front of house, everyone is going towards opening night. And so you have to push through the fear in that case because you've got other people relying on you. You're doing the best to make sure that you don't fail because you want everyone to succeed in this enterprise because it's not just you, it's collective. Like a Shell Lake Into the Woods, the way that production came out, everyone was very happy with the result. And boy, does that feel good. Rather small stage, but we're doing big things on it, and it's really exciting. I hope we sell it every night.